Good morning, everyone. In John's account of the triumphal entry, Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, followed by amazing groups of Greeks who came seeking Jesus, we fully appreciate the meaning of Palm Sunday when we feel what they felt and then go down deeper into the profound understanding of why Jesus came that he explained to them. Hear the word of the Lord in John chapter 12, verse 20 to verses 32. Now among those who went up to worship at the feast were some Greeks. Some so now came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and asked him, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Philip went and told Andrew. Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus and answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Whosoever loves his life loses it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there will be my servant be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. Now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour." The voice of heaven came, "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." The crowd that stood there had heard it and said that it had thundered. Others said, "An angel has spoken to him." Jesus answered, "This voice has come for your sake, not mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now will be the ruler of this world be cast out. And when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people unto myself." This past week, a certain pastor by the name of Dr. Lloyd went by a jewelry store and placed an amazing announcement on a placard in the window, and it said, Come in and get your cross with glass. We will make you a cross that will fit on your cosmetics and your attire. It will fit into your dress so that you won't look too religious. So he went inside and asked the jeweler what the placard meant. The jeweler replied, "We can put together all sorts of metals and stones, and they can really add to a great deal of a woman's Easter attire, that they are not too obvious, so that they don't draw attention to herself." What kind do you like to have for your cross with glass? The jeweler added. Dr. Lloyd replied, "The cross kind of cross, and not glass at all." It's interesting, isn't it? how the cross became a symbol in our lives. We wear them around our neck, put them on the steeples of our churches. We talk and sing about the cross, but what does it really mean? In these few moments, I want to talk to you about why Jesus came to Jerusalem. And if we experience the real reason he came, then we will join the Triumphal Sunday parade with much different voice of praise, and even those who were there with him, following behind him as he marched into Jerusalem. Isn't it wonderful? If we think the most triumphant joy that might have been experienced there, it's nothing in comparison to the joy that we know he had done, painting the marvelous portrayal of the triumphal entry, and he placed his portrait, the many different faces of historical people, and painted them in a way that would describe how they might have looked as they participated in the parade. I wonder how we would paint your face. How do you feel right now? How have to give praise for, and what is it that you want to say to the Lord as you march in with the Palm Sunday parade? It is interesting to imagine that he painted his portrayal of crucifixion, painted his own face into the one of the characters. He wanted the whole world to know, but the pain also of Calvary meant to him that, and what passion had done to transform his own life. How would he portray your face, either in the triumphal entry of the foot of the cross? What does it all mean to you in John's account of the triumphal entry? He has a group of Greeks who came saying, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." And to Jesus was a sign that now the salvation he had come to establish for all people was about to be given. He knew that his hour had come. Now his disciples thought that this was a great sign of victory and success. It was a part of a joyous triumphant day. But Jesus saw something different in it. So he gave them the parable of grain of wheat falling into the ground and dying and germinating and springing forth and giving much more grain. He saw that as his own life. He talked to the people and said, "If you come to me and become my followers, you must die. Take up your own cross and follow me. Deny yourself means hate this world, that you will discover the fullness of the life for which you were created." Then he said this amazing thing, "And if I be lifted up, will draw all people to myself." John helps us to understand the meaning of what he said. He said this to indicate the way he would die, and so on Palm Sunday, as the Holy Week stretches out before us, filled with events of memory. It's all centered into the cross, and question of my heart for you is, what does it mean to you? Does it make any difference? I mean, for the daily walk of your life, for the decisions that you make, how do you feel about yourself? How you reacted in the midst of problems and frustrations and concerns? Does it make any difference to you on a practical level that a time of history of all powerful Creator, Lord and Sustainer of all, entered into history, live in Jesus of Nazareth, told us the kingdom, revealed the nature of God in all of its fullness, revealed to us what we were meant to be. And then, as a cosmic act in the midst of history, impaired of essential nature of his heart, so that we are loved and forgiven. What is the cross meant to you? Oh, if Jesus' statement, if I be lifted up, I will draw all people to myself, that were your experience. Today, you join the parade, and you would have a marvelous triumphant word to speak, a song to sing, an openness to receive what Jesus, our Lord, had to give. You know, it's a strange thing that the more that I talk with Christians and non-Christians alike, people inside and outside the church, there is a common misunderstanding of what really happened there in Golgotha. Even in church, people for years are fuzzy, and they are thinking about what actually took place. Many theologians are confused in the explanation of it, and I believe that practicing Christians often live as if they never experienced, it never happened. Many have never really begun the Christian life because they have not stood at the foot of the cross long enough to be able to know of the fullness of its power. Right now, at this moment, I want to describe what happened there in a way that Jesus can become, that drew us out of ourselves, out of selfishness, out of pride, out of fear, out of guilt, and liberate us once and for all to really live. First of all, the cross is an impartation of the essential heart of God. There was a cross in the heart of God before there was a cross on Calvary. The cross was then and it's now. But if it is not now, it has been robbed of its purpose for you in your life. It is on the cross that we know what is God's eternal attitude toward you and me. It is in that moment of history when Jesus battled the forces of Satan, evil and death and sufferings, that he told the world, I love you and I forgive you. All I know, I enjoyed the writings and the biography of George Whitefield. But every time Whitefield went back to Oxford, he could not resist the temptations, the desire to run to the place where he accepted Jesus Christ, where he knew that he was loved and forgiven, and that an exoneration had been given to him for his sins, and he ran to that place. This scholar and evangelist stands there and recapture it. Oh, my friend, run to Calvary. Run there until you see again how much the Lord loves you. But what did he do there? Remember when John observed him coming over the hill and down to the waters of baptism, he said, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." Jesus came as lamb so that he might die, and that the shedding of his blood in the context of the sacrificial system of ancient Israel might be our once never be repeated atonement for the sins of the whole world. So think of it. All the rebellion, all of the hostility, all of the blatant resistance to God manifested in all of that heinous sins of history, and everything that was to be done from that moment on, right down to this moment, all together against him as he battled with the forces of evil and won. And so when he finished the cross, the cosmic transference had been accomplished. God had forgiven the world in and through him, and to validate what he raised him from the dead. He is with us right now saying, "I did it for you. I feel it through. Though I have been a Christian and I proved thinking about what it might be, still has this fine man I got thinking that there is a difference between the feeling of guilt, the guilt syndrome, and those feelings of insecurities that come to us, that we have failed, that we have sinned and gone against him, but that there is forgiveness. And for that floating sense of guilt that attaches itself to things that are unrelated, he offers us profound healing. For on the cross of Jesus Christ suffered and died not only for the forgiveness of specific sins, but to release an unlimited healing power for the physical and emotional and spiritual needs of his people, so that when we behold the cross, we are pulled out of ourselves, those things that disturb and distress are actually reached out of us and pulled us up into his heart and then washed away. Do you need that to happen in your own life right now? Who doesn't? That's why the cross has such magnetism. That's why Paul would say, "For I am persuaded to know nothing among you but Christ and Him crucified. Nothing else works. That's where the healing streams come, and that's where the power is. I sometimes think about cross and close my eyes to see the cruel nails and crown of thorns. Jesus crucified for me, but even with that, I could see Him die. I could but see a little part of that great love, which is like a fire that is always burning in His heart. Amen. To God be the glory.